Here we are on the front of our Grand Design Influence. We're going to be doing a technical walkthrough like you would get with a technician on date of delivery or tutorial. So we're going to start on our unit. Your brand name may vary with some of these components, or you may want a deeper dive on diagnostics or some other tips and tricks along the way. You can find that in the playlist Haps Helpful Hacks on our Great American RV YouTube channel. Give us a like, subscribe, follow for more videos to come. Here on the front, we'll start with our 7-way plug. It's going to transfer all of our lights from our towing vehicle over to our camper. It's also going to have a battery charge line in it that'll pull off the alternator of the vehicle to help charge that battery while you're traveling down the road. Lastly, we're going to have our brake control wire pass through here too. It'll pull off of that brake control of that towing vehicle to initiate the brakes on our trailer whenever we hit the pedal. Also, to do with our brakes, we'll have our breakaway line. There's a little loop right here. It needs to be connected somewhere on the truck, not the actual fifth wheel hitch itself, because if that hitch or anything like that fails, of course it's more likely going to go with the trailer. What we want this cable to do is stay with the truck, pull that pin out of the box, initiate our brakes, bring our unit to a safe stop. But that can only happen if we have a good 12 volts in our unit, meaning our batteries are in good condition. Otherwise, we're not going to have power once it separates from our truck to initiate that system. We also want to make sure that pin is firmly in that box and inserted properly. That way our emergency brakes aren't active while we're pulling down the road. We do have front cab lights right here over our kingpin as well as our front cap. Those switches are right next to our fifth wheel bay door there on the left. All right, so in our front compartment, we have multiple things in here. We have our battery storage right here at the bottom to the right of me. We have our generator prep, that firebox already there. We can see down here at the bottom area, that silver box right there is where our wiring, our pre-wiring is for our generator. If we want to go ahead and add that generator in there, the pre-wiring that would go to our transfer switch is right there. We can see here, this is our battery disconnect, the simple on-off switch right there. Most of your 12 volt stuff is going to go into there. We have thermal resettable 12 volt fuses in there that will reset on their own after they cool down if they are tripped. And we turn that battery disconnect off when we are storing our unit so we can conserve our battery power on our unit when we go back out to pick it up. Now, anytime you're plugged in, whether you're using your unit or you are storing your unit plugged in, we want that battery disconnect on. That way our converter up here, which is essentially a battery charger, will actually be charging our batteries on our system. When we disconnect that, it literally disconnects our entire unit from our 12 volt system. So we want to make sure that's on so that system will be charging. We'll see our inverter prep up here, that wiring, that 110 Romex right there is there. If you want to upgrade to that inverter, which will change 12 volts to 110, so we can go ahead and use some of our 110 appliances whenever we are dry camping and we don't have a power pole source. We'll notice here we have our solar system set up right here, our solar disconnect. Now that's going to be completely different from our regular battery disconnect. This disconnects our solar from our battery system. We are prepped with solar panels up top, and we also have our controller right here that is operating that system, converting that solar power into charging power for our unit. Basically turning that solar off disables that system. We're going to see a couple of 12 volt breakers throughout our unit that in the event they are reset, they would have this position out like this. We can go in and just reset them. You're also going to have your LCI leveling system and your Swintech slide main controller right here in the back. This is for your leveling system. Nothing you need to be concerned about besides knowing where the location is right now. In our very first storage compartment right here, we're going to notice one propane tank. We'll have the same exact thing in the other side. Propane tank, and then also one of our electric jacks right here for our leveling system. First, we're going to talk about our propane system. We have dual tanks. You'll have a dual propane regulator just inside there with a selector switch. You have both propane tanks on. You use that selector switch to choose which one you want to be your primary. When that primary runs dry, it'll automatically swap over to that secondary tank, and it will begin pulling from that without losing any service in your propane. Now, the indicator on your regulator will show red, letting you know that tank that is currently selected is empty. You can swap it over to the other one and have that one refilled. Now, you have your individual leveling jack right there. Once again, you're going to have that on both sides, and you're also going to have it in the rear. But it's not going to be a tall one, it'll be one mounted on the frame. On the bottom of that motor right there, there is a little black cap you can remove. You want to disconnect your 12-volt system, remove that black cap. You can put a 3/8 drive socket on a drill and manually run that jack up and down in the event there is a failure for that system. Same thing on all of the jacks. Main thing is remember to disconnect that 12 volts before you do it. Now when we open this door, we have our electronic leveling system right here. We'll go over the operation of that, and then we'll also touch on our control panel right here. Here we have our LCI electronic leveling system. This is for our leveling jacks on our unit. Kick it on, and right there on the screen we have our voltage. Voltage is very important on this system. If we don't have a good 12 volts, good battery, this system may not operate correctly. So keep that in mind if you have any faults or issues with the system or errors. Right off the back, when you enter this screen, you can manually go in and start operating your jacks. So when you kick it up and you want to operate just those front leveling jacks, you can just hold that button down. Orange indicator will indicate those are the jacks that are operating. You can also operate them left and right, and same thing if you retract, hold down that retract button and you can hold down the front button and it will drop down. That's only jacks that mode will operate. Right here we'll go into our arrows. This will be what gets you a little bit further. So auto hitch height is after you have auto leveled your unit. So let's say you disconnected from your truck, you went into auto level and you were done camping. You're going to hit that arrow, go into auto hitch height, press enter, and your unit is going to return to the same position you were in whenever you disconnected your truck or pretty close to it. So you can back right up to it and your hitch should line right up. Our next mode is our auto retract all. After we have hooked that hitch up, we're locked in and we're sure that that hitch has the kingpin and we're not going to cause that thing to come off or anything like that. We've checked everything. We can go ahead and hit enter, and this will retract all of our jacks on our unit to where we are ready to head to our next destination. Next mode is auto retract rear. This is only going to bring up the rear jacks and leave your front landing gears down. Our next mode is our manual level mode. So if we want to manually level our unit ourselves, we can hit enter, go into this manual mode, and it's going to tell us where our degree marks are as far as how off level we are. So this will change as you level your unit. Now you have control of all of your jacks, your front and your rear, and then you can adjust it left and right. And like I said, you can see those degree marks kind of change as you level out the unit. Once again, if we have gone too far, we need to retract a little bit. We hold down that retract button until it lights up, and then we can operate whatever ones we wish. Now, one thing that you'll notice is if we kick this unit off level, we can notice we now have a flashing light right here. This indicates that the front is low. So if we're doing that manual mode, it just makes it a little bit easier. We go ahead and hold that button down. We can also notice our degree mark is climbing right there. And obviously we've hit 0 here. Now we have an indicator that is green. That's letting us know that the unit is level. Same thing on the outsides here. We have more red lights that will indicate if those angles are unlevel. If we hit it one more time after that manual mode, that brings us to our regular ready screen. The other option is we disconnect from our truck and we go straight into auto level. We just hold that button down and then it's going to go through auto leveling your unit. It's important we don't walk around in our unit during that period. We let it go ahead and level out until it says complete, or you may see this screen right here should have a green light in the middle. If you have any errors, then you'll have to assess that through the troubleshooting. LCI has great literature on what to do. We also have some other videos that go through some steps on that as well. Also want to add with our leveling system, we want to make sure we have at least 6 holes showing on these landing gears. Otherwise, you're going to run out of stroke on these jacks in order to level your unit. So make sure we're using at least 6 holes. We can see them, count them on there, and you won't run into any errors as far as trying to level your system in regards to that. All right, our control center, we can see we have our hot and cold for our spray port right here with the disconnect. That blue coiled hose we can take in and out. We also have our satellite and our cable and our auxiliary and the locations of where those coaxes go as far as if we want to separate our satellite signals for different receivers. Our cable will run to every TV. We do have on some units the outside TV coax right there off to the right and a GFCI protected outlet right here as well. Our combination right here of valves, this is to initiate our different ways that our water would go into our system. So we'll start with city water, which is your most common hookup. You would go to this connection right here. You would hook water up to your city water connection right here, turn the water line on, and then that would supply directly to all of your fixtures. Your dry camping, in order to use your dry camping, we would do power fill tank first. So that would be in this sequence right here. We hook up to our city water connection, we turn that water on. That's going to begin to fill up our freshwater tank, which is onboard storage on our unit. In the event we go somewhere where there isn't going to be water, we use it while we are driving at rest areas, so on and so forth. So we fill that tank up, and then whenever we want to actually use it, we're going to turn to our dry camping situation right here, which is going to pull that water from that tank. In order to do that, we would turn on our 12-volt water pump right there. That would initiate that pump system and bring water out of that tank to our fixtures. The two over here, winterization, which would be this combination right here. This is if we want to winterize our unit, put antifreeze in there, we would use that. Same thing, we would go ahead and hook a water hose up to our city water connection, run the other end into our RV antifreeze, and pump that in after we have drained our two low point drains down here at the bottom of our console here. We would drain that water out first, blow the water out, then pump our antifreeze into our system after shutting off our two low point valves. Siphon to sanitize the tank would be this combination right here. Very similar to winterization, but we would have a mixture of water and bleach. We would hook a hose up to this, put it in that mixture, and kick our pump on, and that's going to go ahead and put that into our fresh tank in order to sanitize that system. Now our onboard fresh tank storage can be drained. We're going to have a valve in that underbelly. You want to keep in mind that this does add extra weight to your camper, so if you don't need it, don't take it. And we don't want to leave that water in there for too long because it will become stagnant, so we'll need to just drain it out when not in use. You're also going to have to the right here this black connection. This is your black tank flush for your sewage. We'll go over the operation of that when we get to our dump station. Down below your control center, you'll see your valve configuration. We'll have our black tank here, our gray tank here, and these are our two low point drains that we would use for winterization. There's more information on winterization in your owner's manual or our videos on Hap's Helpful Hacks. Moving right behind our compartment, we have our Furrion furnace right here and our Furrion tankless water heater, both powered by 12 volts, both needing propane in order to heat. We have our other black tank flush, because we'll have two black tanks on this unit, and our 50 amp power service right here. That 50 amp power service will insert in, turn to the right, put that lock ring on there so it can't be pulled out by kiddos or anything like that. We always want to make sure we insert this in first and then plug it into our power pole to reduce arcing right here at this plug. We also want to make sure that our AC systems are off so we don't cause any surges on those appliances. We'll talk about our water heater and our furnace operation when we get to the inside to those controls. We can see under our slide out, we have our fresh tank valve right here. This is to dump it out. We have that white valve over our axles. That will go ahead and drain out that fresh tank system. We have one of our leveling jacks right there, that black plug we talked about there at the bottom in order to override that system. This quick connect right here is hooked to our LP system. That line runs up for our refrigerator, for our gas stove and appliances in that slide out. Down here below the J-wrap, we'll see our port for our sewer hose to be able to dump our tanks. We talked about where our valves are there by the control center. We have one dump here and one in the rear. We have two black tanks, right? So our black tanks are sewage from our toilet. Our gray tanks are shower and sink water. If we have a port there at the campground, we want to go ahead and we can leave that gray tank open all the time and let that water drain out rather than having to go open it up every time. Those gray tanks can fill up kind of quick if we're taking multiple showers and stuff. Our black tank, however, we need to keep those valves closed all the time. Reason being is we're putting solids into that toilet. It can dry up and get stuck in that tank, so we always want water in there to make sure that that stuff doesn't solidify. If we don't keep water in there, that stuff's going to get stuck in there. We're never going to get it out. So make sure we are always having water in there. Make sure we leave our black tank valve closed until we are ready to dump. When we are ready to dump, we open that valve, we hook a water hose up to that black tank flush, and then that is going to lead to a jet port on the other side of that tank and help push the debris, water, everything else out of this drain right here and help flush out your system. Now once you're satisfied, you shut off your black tank flush, you close your valve, you go on the inside, hold down the pedal on your toilet, and add several gallons of clean water in there and your chemicals as well. While you're driving down the road, that'll kind of help clean that tank up a little bit as well while you're traveling and that water's sloshing around in there. Same exact thing on your black tank connection there in the rear. Once again, keep it closed until you're ready to dump. The black tank flush that's in your control center is going to be for this one. Your black tank flush for the rear one is going to be right there above your water heater. So right behind our axle, we're going to see another leveling jack. Right there at the bottom, we're going to see that plug we can pull, and under our rear slide out, we're going to see our other dump station with a black and gray tank valve right there. That will work just like our front one. You can get another hose and a Y pipe, connect all these together to one port if you wish. So on all of our rear slide outs, living room, bunkhouse area, they're all going to be electric rack and pinion slide outs where the motor is in the underbelly that operates these. We're gonna have overrides on these. In our J-wrap, you'll see a hole along the way. That is to be able to put a crank handle in and manually run that slide out in the event that it has failed for whatever reason. Our front bedroom slide out is a Schwintek slide. We talked about the location of that board. That is a little bit more involved to override. We have that video in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. On the rear of our unit, we are prepped for that Furrion backup camera to be able to see behind us while we're traveling or backing up. The power would be initiated by turning our running lights on. It would send power to that port up there where we would install our camera. Down here we have our receiver hitch with our tow chain location, as well as our four-way wire if we want to tow a trailer behind us, put a bike rack, whatever the case may be. We're also going to have our factory supplied ladder back here. That's really important because we need to get up on our roof, check the sealant up there every 60 to 90 days, as well as the sealant around our trims, our lights, our windows, all that stuff around our camper every 60 to 90 days. Your owner's manual tells you this, and it is 100% customer maintenance, and is 100% the most neglected thing when it comes to buying a camper that customers do. So make sure you're staying on top of your sealant, whether you keep it under a cover or not. Check that sealant on a regular basis. We also want to get up and clean our roof at least twice a year, and check that roof after trips to make sure no low-lying tree limbs have poked any holes in our rubber. Make sure we're taking care of that so your product will last for years to come. Here we have our outdoor kitchen 110 cooler right here for our drinks. Have a cable satellite hookup right there for outdoor TV. Our sink with our hot and cold, of course light switches for our lights in here, and our gas griddle. Now, before we get into our gas griddle, we'll talk about this. This will cool, right? We're gonna end up with a little bit of water in there and stuff when we shut it down due to condensation. We need to make sure we wipe that down really good so we don't have any mold and mildew build up in there, but also we don't want water to collect, drip out of here and damage any of our components around it. That's not gonna be something the manufacturer participates in repairing. It is customer maintenance to make sure we defrost and clean our fridge and freezers out properly. Now our griddle right here, we would go ahead and undo our travel latch, pull that out. Of course, we have to flip our griddle over. We're gonna have our extension hose for our LP with this male fitting right here. Under our J-wrap, we have that female fitting right there. We would go ahead, feed that down there, and we could go ahead and connect it up. Now, it is gonna have a lever on there. We need to make sure that lever's off, otherwise it won't allow you to hook this quick connect up. Then we need to turn it on to actually get gas flow out of that system. When we disconnect it, valve off to disconnect that quick connect. Whenever we put it back in, make sure everything is tightened up and our hose is put back there, and then we need to initiate our travel latch on there, and we're ready to travel. We're going to talk about our overrides for the slide out. That is what this hole right here is for. If you look through there, there's a post sticking out of the frame. We put our crank handle in there. We can manually retract that slide out on the opposite side. This one right here is to go ahead and drop down our spare tire and pick it back up. Same thing, crank handle to be inserted in there to be able to rotate and drop that in. On our slide out here behind our entry door, we'll notice a hole right there. That is to override that opposite slide. Just to give you an idea of what you're looking for, it's going to be that bolt sticking out with a nut on the end of it to be able to put that crank handle on and retract that system. Here on our passenger side, first bay is going to be that propane tank on the opposite side here, located along with another leveling jack. In our pass-through compartment, of course, we'll have our crank handle that comes with the unit for the overrides, and we have our tire link system by Lippard with the sensor, the monitor already put in here, the sensors for our tires already installed so we can monitor our tires while we're traveling down the road. Behind that, we have our GFCI protected outlet here. We also have a spray port where we can move that blue coiled hose and have a spray port out here. And behind our compartment, we do have another quick connect for our spray port, as well as our GFCI protected outlet. So our entry door does have a latch here at the bottom. We want to make sure we latch that, keep our door from swinging open and closed. And we need to make sure that it's open all the way when we lift these solid steps up and down. Really easy to operate, just lift them up. You'll have a shock assist there on the inside. Let it glide in and touch our frame and we're ready to go. Reason we want our door all the way open is so these brackets don't tear up our screen there. To drop them down, we just give it a pull and drop them down. Now, one thing we need to keep in mind after we level our unit is we need to come over here and level our steps. Really easy to do. We have these silver tabs right here on each side, and when we push them in, these legs will actually come in and out. So we put our steps in the down position and we can adjust our legs to get a nice level set of steps. We do this so we have a good even threshold right here so our door can close and not have any gaps into it. It'll close properly, and also we want to make sure that we don't have any contact with the frame of our steps with the bottom frame of our door when we open and close it as well. Last thing to go over before we go inside is our awnings. We have one here, one on our slide out, and we want to make sure that we tilt our awning either to the rear or to the front whenever we put it out. Reason being is we don't want water to accumulate on that awning and have a sudden collapse or anything like that. It is mainly a sunshade. We keep it out for a little light rain, stuff like that, but we may also have some AC condensation, dew, and stuff like that accumulate on that roof. So in order to do that real easy, we'll find this pinch point right here. We grab a hold of that handle, we pull it down, and now our awning is tilted towards the rear and that water can drain out. Once again, the arms are the same on both awning arms, the front and the rear, and the same on our slide out awning. To put it back, simply push up and we can roll our awning in. Now we get high winds, bad thunderstorm, leave our camper for an extended period of time. It's a great suggestion to go ahead and roll that awning in so you don't end up with an insurance claim having to repair it. So make sure we go ahead and take that advice. And we also just want to make sure that we are carrying and cleaning our awning on a regular basis. 12 volt operated, 12 volt awning lights. We'll show you where that 12 volt fuse panel is when we get inside. All right, so right when we walk in, we open up that cabinet. We have our control center here. We'll see our inverter prep box right there at the top. That's where we would put our controller for our inverter. And we'll go over our control center right here. We can see the levels of all of our tanks, our fresh tank, our black tanks, and any gray tanks that we have, as well as our battery level here. And below that, we'll see our ceiling, pendant lights, our accent lighting, all that stuff right here, as well as our porch lights. We do have a Bluetooth Connect button. If we want to download that Compass Connect app, we can actually see and control some of these items from that app. Now, one thing that we have here is we are prepped for that generator. Like I said, this will go ahead and start it if we have that generator in there. Our water pump is that 12 volt water pump that's going to pull from our storage tank. Now, it's very important that we understand that that 12 volt water pump is an on-demand system. When we turn our water faucet on, if we have it on, it's going to pull from that fresh tank. Now, if we do have a city water connection hooked up, turn that water pump off. You don't need it. You don't have to worry about it. Now, another time we need to turn that pump off is if we notice that it's running and we don't have any water running in our unit, our faucets are off, all that stuff, and we notice that water pump running, then we need to go ahead and shut it off because we may have an empty tank and that can burn up that pump. And we may also notice that we might have a leak in our system, in which case we need to turn it off and investigate. Our tank heaters are 12 volt mat heaters that are on our tanks to go ahead and keep those things from freezing in extreme temperatures. Down here at the bottom, we have our awning and our slide out controls here, and everything here you see is all 12 volt power. So more than likely some of that stuff is going to be in that 12 volt fuse panel we'll cover a little bit later. Right below our control center, we'll see our Coleman Mach thermostat right there for our AC. This one is going to control our middle AC, and it's also going to control the furnace kicking on, and that will be our gas furnace for our heat. Now that's going to control the heat for the entire unit, whereas this thermostat is going to control just the cool for that middle AC. Your front and rear ACs are going to have their own separate thermostat that will control just those. Let's go over the operation of this one. Your other ones are going to be the exact same, except they won't have the heat option. All right, this is our thermostat for our AC system. When we click that button once, it'll give us the option for mode. Our first mode is cool. We hit that button again, and then we can choose between high or low auto or high and low all the time. So high and low all the time will keep that fan running constantly, even though that compressor is not on. Auto will shut that fan off whenever our compressor is turned off. Once we go ahead and initiate those two items, our AC will kick on, and we can choose our desired temperature by turning that knob right there. And the larger number on that screen is going to be our room temperature. So here we're set at 63, and our actual temperature is 83. Cool on is going to show you that that system is initiating, and that system will kick on. Our next option on there, if we hit that button twice again, is heat. When we go ahead and click it right there, it will bring on the heat, show our room temperature as well as our set to temperature. Our heat is only going to come out of the lower areas. It's not going to come out of that rooftop AC. If you have air blowing out of that rooftop area, then we want to make sure that we don't have the fan on high or low on that cool option. So we would go back to our cool, and we would check right here and make sure it's on auto. Our last option on here is cool and heat. In this case, we can go ahead and do the same thing, choose our fan options, just have a set temp in between the furnace and the AC. It will keep that temperature set at that 72-degree mark. Now, in order to turn that system completely off, click it twice again, and we can go to off. Our cabinet down below our bar has our 110 breakers as well as our 12-volt fuses here. Everything is labeled so we can see what components they operate. We can check, see if any breakers are tripped or fuses are blown. It's the first place we want to go when it comes to troubleshooting if something's not working properly. Our island provides us with a high-scale sink with our rinse tray for our cups. We also have our soap dispenser. We have a waterfall feature right here to go ahead and rinse dishes. We can go ahead and kick that on by just turning this knob, and then we can control our temperature right here for our water up top. Here in the kitchen, we have our 12-volt, 16 cubic inch Furrion refrigerator, residential style. We'll go over the information on that right now. All right, so here we have our Furrion residential fridge. We have a freezer on this side, fridge on this side, and we have our control center right here. We can see that we have our couple of options. We have fridge, freezer, function, and lock. In order to change into these functions, we need to make sure that lock icon is gone. So we can do that by holding down on the word itself, not the icon. Eventually that will go away. Now we can change the temperature on our fridge and freezer if we wish by pressing, once again, the words, not the numbers. Now we have a couple of functions on here. The first function is a little umbrella with a sun on it. That is our vacation mode option. That is going to be considered to be off-grid. So it's going to reduce the amount of work that compressor is doing. That way we're not using as much power. Let's say that we're working off of our batteries and we don't want to use as much power, so we want to put that in that vacation mode. This screen will auto lock itself, so if you open it back up and you're messing with it, you may see that lock icon come back on. We just hold that button once again. Our next mode is a little snowflake. That is our super freeze mode. That's going to drop the temperature down more on our freezer and help cool, super freeze whatever we might have put in there, right? Our next one is a little drop with a snowflake on it, and that is going to be our fridge cold mode. So our super cold mode for our fridge side, same thing. We can activate those both individually or at the same time. We keep clicking them and all of them will go away. Now once everything's gone, that would just be normal operation, and we can go ahead and adjust that temperature whatever we want. The other ones are set already for those modes. Now we're also going to have an option on here. If we store our unit, we want to put it in, they call it a low power mode. It's basically turning everything off. If we hold down that lock button once again to unlock it, and we hold down the function for 5 seconds, the system is going to turn off. We'll notice some dashes right here. That shuts your compressor off. That shuts the lights off inside the fridge. That's basically how we turn this system off. So if we're storing our unit, we want to shut it down. We also want to defrost this freezer, get any water out of it, moisture, anything like that. Same thing for our fridge. There's no drain tubes on these, so that water is all it's going to do is leak out. Make sure we put towels on the floor, wipe all of it out, because that can cause damage to any wood components around it. So make sure we're maintaining this properly. You're also going to have a little travel knob for your refrigerator to help ensure that your goods don't fall out. Take that, screw that into that hole up top, and you tighten that down while you're in travel to keep those doors from opening. Here we have our Furrion microwave. Has a hood range vent fan right there to ventilate out. We also have our Furrion residential style 3-burner stovetop and our oven down here at the bottom. Now, in order to operate your stovetop real easy, pick your burner that you want, turn it into that flame icon, push it down, and it will ignite. Now, our oven's going to be pretty much the same thing. That'll be our knob there all the way to the left. Same thing, we're going to go ahead and turn it on that ignite button until our pilot lights. Let it burn for a second and then turn to our temperature. We do have an oven light there at the bottom. We do have a switch right here that'll turn on lights on our knobs. Now, important thing about our propane is we can end up with air in our system. This is generally because we stored our unit with our tanks turned off, which is perfectly normal and fine. It can also happen in the event that we've ran out of gas, we changed our tank, so on and so forth. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, or you just pulled your unit out of the storage lot, turned your propane on, come over here and just light your stove. It takes a couple seconds for that propane to reach the line, get the air out of the system. Once you light it, let it run for about 60 seconds. It's a good idea to do that before we operate things like our furnace or our water heater so they don't go into a fault mode due to having air in the line. So pretty simple rule to follow. Bleed that air out first. For our entertainment, of course, we'll have our TV, our coax port up here for satellite, cable, and antenna. Now, next to that cable antenna is going to be a little button and a little light. That button will turn that light off and on, but it also turns off and on your antenna boost. Now, our antenna boost is used when we are searching or scanning for antenna channels on our TV. We want that antenna boost on, that way we can pick up more channels in that area. When we have cable from the campground, we turn that antenna boost off. That way we're not scrambling channels from the campground that are trying to get over to our TV. Down below that, we have our 110 fireplace. We'll go over a little operation on that right now. Here we have our fireplace. We have a sensor right up here in the top right. We have to aim that remote at to turn it on. We have our Celsius and Fahrenheit temperature we can change to. And right here, this little flame icon is going to change the dimness of our flame. If we want to change the lighting of our flame, we hit the light bulb on the screen down here at the bottom, and it'll give you some different options right there. If we want to operate our heater on a timer, once again, electric heater, it is going to be this button right here. It looks like a clock, and when we push it, we can see some times pop up, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, all the way up to 8, and then it will go to 0 hours, letting you know that that timer is off. If we want to change our temperature, we'll use one of these two buttons at the bottom, and we can see once again we have a temperature down there, and we will go ahead and raise it until it kicks on, or lower it, we want it to kick off, or we can keep going until it says on, and that heater will stay running all the time. We kick it up one more time, and it's going to say OF, meaning that that system is off. In our living room area, electric recliners to be able to recline back and forth, chairs for our dinette booth. We're also going to notice our LP detector down here. That is going to warn us of any cautious gases. It also warns us of CO as well. Our light down there lets us know that that system is powered up. It's hardwired into our 12-volt battery system, so it's going to be on all the time. We have that test button right there. We want to test, make sure that audible alarm is working before we head out camping. It's also going to have an expiration date either printed on the front or the back of it. Once it's expired, we need to go ahead and change that out. Throughout your unit, you're also going to have smoke detectors powered by a 9-volt battery that we want to make sure is powered up properly and test that alarm on that one as well. Not much to go over in our bunkhouse area. We do have a sofa that will fold out into a bed for more sleeping, our bunkhouse area, storage there, and a drop-down bunk there at the top with our rear bathroom with just a toilet in there and our thermostat to operate that individual AC in here. We'll go over more information on our bathroom when we hit our main one in the front. Here we are in our front bathroom. We have our latch right there for our travel on our glass doors to make sure they don't get busted. We have our shower with our hot and cold faucets and an on-off knob on that shower head. That on-off knob is used when we are dry camping. Maybe we don't have a place to dump. Maybe we're conserving the amount of water we're using out of our fresh tank. So rather than trying to find that sweet spot on our faucet by turning it off and on, that hot fixture right there, we can go ahead and just turn it off on our shower head and conserve the amount of water we're using if we wish. And if you have a city water connection, you have a dump station, you don't have to use it, you know, don't worry about it, it's up to you. Our toilet right here, that's going to lead straight down into our black tank, right? To flush it, hit that pedal, flushes it down the drain. Now, when we're talking sewage, we're talking about number 1 and number 2. liquids and solids, right? So liquids, hit that pedal, flush it down the drain, it's gone. Solids, however, we need to fill that bowl about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way, and we can do that by barely pushing that pedal down, filling that bowl up with water, and then flushing that system. That's to make sure we have enough water to send that stuff down all the way to the tank so it doesn't get clogged up in the pipes. Now, another thing that we need to put in there is RV toilet paper only. That way it degrades properly in our system. We use anything else, there's a chance we could clog up our pipes or our valves. Last thing, we need to put our chemicals. That way we'll help degrade the sewage in there as well as our toilet paper. In here, we're also going to have our main GFCI. Now, everywhere in your wet locations outside, we talked a little bit about GFCI protected outlets. That means all of them are going to be sourced out of this location right here. And when they trip, we'll have to come in here and hit that reset button on here to bring them back to life and have power. Now, one thing about that is they can trip because those outlets got wet, or maybe we have too many appliances plugged in, coffee makers, griddles, so on and so forth. So if it trips right away, go unplug some of those items, make sure the outlets aren't wet, and give it another shot to try to reset it. Lastly, in here, we have our Furrion tankless water heater. We'll go over the info on that now. In our bathroom, we'll see our Furrion tankless control center. Pretty simple. We have our power on, off and on, kick it on. That's going to be our set point for our water. We can change that by hitting our up and down buttons right there. Our indicators right here, power, Fahrenheit, Celsius. If we want to change one to the other, we hit that bottom right button, and flame. Flame is only going to kick on whenever we turn that hot water on, indicating that system is working. And once again, on demand, it'll only come on whenever we have that hot water on. We're also going to have a vent here whenever we take a shower. It's suggested that we go ahead and ventilate it out. That way we don't have a lot of heat and humidity in here, and we do see opportunity for mold and mildew. In our bedroom, not much to talk about. We do have hot and cold water up here and a drain tube. That is for our setup for a washer dryer if we want to upgrade that. Our TV in here with satellite and cable options, and then we also have our front AC controlled by our separate thermostat. Now, very important on all of our sealing assemblies, we're going to notice these valves right here that open up these vents. These are quick dump vents. They're going to go ahead and cool this area off quickly. When we want them to circulate through our sealing vents, we close them off, and it will start to come out of our ducts here at the top. We're also going to have some filters here on each side. We pull down on those two tabs. We need to clean those filters regularly so we're not restricting air to our AC. Not much else to go over here besides we do have some storage under our bed. That wraps up our unit.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful. But wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us. And keep watching here at Great American RV Superstores, where we bring the how-to you.